Leuk dat jullie er allemaal zijn. That was Dutch. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
I will not speak any more Dutch from now on.
Please don't, because we don't speak any Dutch.
You don't know any Dutch, do you?
We don't. You can say anything about us right now.
No, I will not. That is very rude. And we Dutch are culturally rude, but not that rude.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's amazing to sit in with you guys because you've been like an extension of me for 133 hours. I've been like dressing you up in different armors. I've been talking through you. I feel we have like a very intimate relationship.
I feel connected, especially sat at this table. But no, it's really funny. People say that a lot because, obviously they've sort of played as me for like hundreds and hundreds of hours in most cases. And so there is a sort of pre-built intimacy there, if you like. So is this really loud, by the way, for you?
Is it loud? Is anyone?
Okay, good.
Oh, it's good. Yeah,
the feedback I can hear sounds incredibly loud, and I'm very sorry. I'm bursting your eardrums right now. But no, it's a really unusual thing, and very unlike most of the work that I do, which is not in gaming, where the level of intimacy, particularly as a playable character, is intense and like really, really lovely.
Yeah.
And I've sort of learned that along the way that people will open up often very quickly when they chat to you about which is something I love. That doesn't really happen in my other work. So yeah, it's nice to meet you. Intimate.
Without you knowing. And you, of course, I have an interesting relationship with you as well.
Oh, do you now? What's that then?
Yes.
What have you been doing?
Well, there was an interesting option. We'll talk about that later. We'll
get to that.
We'll definitely get to that. Because I have two major high points in the game so far. One not so far, because I actually finished it. One that was at the end. And we'll talk about that, because that's like a really nice thing to talk about. But the first one is a conversation you guys had in the game about labor and about the fact you weren't gonna log any sacks. You weren't gonna do any labor because you were a noble, right?
No, and I carry that into my real life. I expect to do absolutely no work this weekend.
Funnily enough, I actually did that scene yesterday. So Luke has obviously been streaming the game. I've just started streaming the game 2 weeks ago and did my second stream yesterday. And I did that scene yesterday. So yeah, life imitating art, me carrying Luke's bags around. Trust me.
And that was the beginning of your big argument, right? I mean,
sadly, yes.
It was really funny because people have put our streams together now. So Tom's reaction and my reaction, like playing at the same time in real time, and we both said basically the exact same thing. When it really hits home that they're breaking up,
yeah, we don't like fighting.
We both said like, but he's my best friend.
Well, that brings me to my next point, because at the end of the game, and this is a huge spoiler, everybody, has anyone played Kingdome Deliverance 2? Yeah, I hope you have questions for them later, because there is one big spoiler. It's in Baldur's Gate 3, it's in a lot of RPGs, and to my big surprise, I could romance you.
What a surprise!
Of course.
You certainly can.
And that was like, I actually screamed in joy when that happened. And it was also a very interesting and tasteful scene that followed.
Yeah, when they told us they were going to, forgive me if you've heard this before, but when we started the process of KCD2, they sat us down and talked us through the whole skeleton of the story, which was like, took them a day and a half to do. And one of the elements they told us about was that you were able to romance hands. And we were like, that's absolutely brilliant. But they, like everything they do at Warhorse, they do it with thought and, in a classy way, in a kind of a way that is narratively driven and very character driven. So it wasn't kind of, they weren't just going to do it whimsically, or they were like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly and respectfully and write a really three-dimensional romance, which kind of already existed in terms of the intimacy between the two characters. That three-dimensionality was already there from the first game. So the kind of building blocks of it were there. And lots of the fans had lobbied for it between games, and that's, again, I've said it before, but Warhorse really listens to the fans and kind of acts on the things that people are interested in and want to see happen. But they took the idea and they were like, we're not just going to do this as a kind of 5-minute thing, we're going to do it as a really proper, we're going to dig deep and make it really real, and I think they did. We knew that when we read the scene, didn't we?
The more I play these two games, the more I am convinced I am the greatest romance option for you.
that's ever been, because every other romance option, in my opinion, maybe with the exception of Teresa, pales by comparison. You know, your romance, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but your romance Rosa, I'm sorry, but it's an absolute disappointment, let's be honest. Kind of the same with Catherine-ish. And I'm like, I am the best one. I actually am. Like, I don't know, I always joked around and said I was, but I definitely am.
I think you have to do every single one to be sure, though, right?
Yeah, you do. Oh, and I will. Although, you need to know this for your playthrough, you can't romance Catherine and me.
I do remember saying this.
No, you can't, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I tried to romance Catherine, and the peasants got very angry with me, and they said, I can't believe you're choosing that. And I was like, what, you can't do both? And they were like, no, absolutely not. I was like, oh, well, it's a good job I've messed it up with her anyway. Because I burned down Malashov, and she wasn't happy about that. So, onto the true love.
We've talked before, haven't we, about the buzzkill of arson.
Yeah.
Nothing will destroy a relationship like arson.
Who knew burning down a village was not sexy? Not me. Did you know? Anyway.
But how weird is it to romance yourself?
Well, I haven't managed it yet.
Oh, okay, you're gonna do it.
I'm still not finished the game. I'm now reaching that point in the game where I'm about to lock in to that segment, and I won't be able to go anywhere on the map. I'll be locked in. So I'm like doing a few side quests before I get there. So I'm aware I'm nearly there. And I've put in the work, guys. I've really navigated that relationship with zeal and you know, I'm very gentle. So I think I can do it. I do.
Because you can prepare, like there's a couple of conversation options with a heart behind it, so those are already...
Those are the obvious moves, yeah.
I feel like as somebody who is very, very early on in the game, I feel like the seeds of it are there really, really early. There was a line about when we sat in that tavern before we fall out, where you're refusing to do the work. That's what you were talking about. And you say something like, oh, don't worry, I'll give you a rub-down later or something like that. And I was like, well, if that's not an innuendo, I don't know what is.
And what do you think we're going to fight with our cocks? That's another fairly... That's pretty... No, it's in the training arena with me at the beginning.
That's right.
So yeah, but what I love about the romance is that you do have to work for it, and you do have to think about the choices you make, and you have, like, even if Hans isn't around, you have to go, if I do this, is it going to mess my chances up with him? And you have to really think about that, just like in life. Love that.
Anyone here romanced Hans Capon?
Hey, lots of people.
Nice.
Well done.
That's good to hear. So, you've also been in Gutenberg for real, right? Because in the game you're not there yet. I mean,
I'm a long way off, I think. And
it's going to be a while.
The speed that I'm going and the skill with which I'm going, or the lack of skill, it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
But we been to Gutenberg and we did some artwork there. And I was saying this on the stream yesterday, that a lot of the places, so you know that beautiful, in the sort of like credit sequence at the beginning, where you see the two of us walking along just before Hans gets shit thrown at him. Can I say shit? Are there children here? Shit. Just before that, there's that beautiful lake and all these vistas that we were like, hey, that's where we were doing the marketing video, but like, we didn't know that at the time. We didn't realise those features so heavily in the game. But one of the places we went to was Kingdome, and they've realised it so beautifully. We're like St. Barbara's Cathedral, which is literally like something out of a Disney movie. It's so well preserved and so beautiful. So yeah, we sort of did it backwards, didn't we? We like went to them in the real world, and now we're exploring them in the game. So I would recommend going. They're beautiful.
Yeah, and the Trotsky area as well, and saw a lot of nature and stuff like that. Because there was like a documentary series, kind of like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
And you also learned how to fight with swords.
Well, in the documentary series, it was more about us not being able to fight with swords, right? So the sort of gag was that we didn't know what we were doing, which is quite convenient because we actually don't. But yeah, the documentary series was sort of, it was like somewhere between Henry and Hans and Luke and Tom, wasn't it? So we were using our own names, but it was very much like, the gag was like us as the characters, essentially, in the modern day.
There was something interesting you said to Luke in the documentary. It was, you are aware that they are called thoughts, and the fact you can be performed completely silently? Do you remember that line? Which means
do.
you talk too much, actually? Is that like a thing that's only in the games that way, or is it in real life as well?
No, so that was written by a brilliant guy called Vitek, who's the marketing guy who wrote the scripts for that.
Yeah.
And yes, essentially the line was like, stop, you can have thoughts without saying them out loud. No, it's not like that in real life at all. We're like very mature, grown-up.
Not at all. Not at all.
Good to know. So what are the biggest takeaways from your sessions with the game? Because that was the first time you played it, right?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm enjoying it. I wouldn't say more than I thought I would, because I knew that I would, but because like gaming is not my natural habitat, I basically, like everyone in this room who has played the game will be infinitely more skilled at that game than me. And so I thought it was just going to be like one long exercise in like not being able to do the mechanics. But actually the beautiful thing about doing it the way that I'm doing it, and part of the reason why I decided to do it that way, is that you've got everyone in chat supporting you. I did my first one with Luke, who supported me, and then and I've also got a guy called Matt who's helping me. So, but mostly it's like the community are right there. And so yesterday particularly was the first day of just asking for help and getting it. And I think, forgive me for repeating myself, but it's something I want to repeat as many times as I can. We are blessed with the most incredible community, and it's just the last 4 months since release have been this journey of like being carried along on this tidal wave of positivity and support by many of the people that are sat here, and lots of people all over the world. And so you've got the hardcore members of that community in chat there who know the game inside out, and so the experience is like much more collaborative and much more fun, I think, than I thought it would be. If I was doing it on my own at home, I think I'd find it quite lonely and not very fun because I'd just be getting stuck all the time. But actually, when it's a conversation, it's really, really fun. So it's honestly, it's a real laugh. I'm loving it.
But the second session we've done without Luke.
Yeah, so the first one we did together, we snatched it before he moved to Prague, and then the second one yesterday I did on my own, and then going forward it'll be a bit of both, but obviously he's not there sadly to do it together, but it'll be like me and then him sometime.
We're going to try and do some together, even though because you can't coast oceans apart, yeah, oceans apart, but we'll figure it out, we'll do it.
Isn't it nice to play video games for...
As a streamer recently, and it's utterly surreal that I get to do that. But I'm also trying to branch out, so I'm doing like in real life IRL streams now as well, where I gallivant around and just behave like an idiot. I did one in prison. You watched the Prague stream the other day? Did you watch that? Yeah, that was really fun. And I went and met like 5 or 6 other actors along the way, and got toured around Prague by a guy called Michael Pithen, who plays Radzig in the game, and it was just wild. It was so crazy. We were on Charles Bridge at one point. I've not even told you about it. We were on Charles Bridge at one point, and about 8 people came up to us, and I was like, I just can't. I just don't know we have to get off this bridge. This is too much. But it's so much fun. It's great.
All right, this is of course a Q&A, which means you all can ask a question as well. So if you have any questions for Tom and Luke, please, queue behind the microphone.
Don't be shy.
But I have enough questions, so don't worry about it.
We don't mind.
So, Luke, is it true you actually considered quitting acting before you got a role in Kingdome Come Deliverance?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, but it was just before lockdown. I had given up acting already, basically. I couldn't basically make a living, and found it very precarious and unstable as a career. So I quit for a few years, went into filmmaking instead. And then on the eve of lockdown is when I got a call from Warhorse saying, we'd like you to be in the sequel. And I said yes, and that has now, over the years, because of the success of the game, because of your support, because of you guys offering us support and loving the game so much, I've been able to kind of get back into acting through that. And it's not as scary now, because I've got a lot more strings to my bow, if you like. So it's been life-changing being in this game, for sure.
I'm not sure if you said how important or how hard. It's like how important is like we would definitely get fired. I told a couple of people. I know, so wait, if anyone's filming, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone.
Warhorse is not listening right now, hopefully.
No, but it's obviously really important, and it is really hard. The hardest thing, which we've said before, was spending so much time in Prague. So in the first instance, there was like big chunks of performance capture. So I was there for kind of cumulatively probably about 4 months, but in like little chunks. So that's already quite a lot of time. And then after that, it was like long, like weekly trips almost. I was almost like commuting to Prague for work. And so I was there a lot, and sometimes we'd see the same people, and and they'd be like, "Why are you here?" And it's like, well, I just really love Prague, so I come from Monday to Friday.
The airport staff were very, very suspicious.
I've said this before, but there was an immigration officer who specifically, he was like, "Are you here for work?" And I was like, "Yes, I have to tell the truth." And he was like, "Oh, okay, welcome." With this one.
Can't imagine what for.
And I was like, what if he asks me what my work is? Do I have to tell the truth? How does an NDA work when you're dealing with like immigration staff? Obviously, he didn't ask anymore. But it is hard to stick to them, isn't it? You go, because for the people that know about it and care, they really know about it and care, as you all know. And so that was the key thing for about 2.5 years that they really wanted to know. And it was the key thing that we couldn't say.
By chance, there is a lot of projects filming in Prague. It's like the capital of filming in Europe.
Wow.
Hollywood films in Prague all the time because it's cheap to film there, and it's beautifully medieval, and it kind of looks like London, kind of looks like Germany. It's like, so you can say you're going to Prague and people buy it if you're like, "Oh, I'm filming in Prague." You could be kind of filming anything, so you got a bit of that. But no, it's hard to not say.
Thanks for your question. What's your name, by the way?
My name is Gentle.
Gentle.
Thank you, Gentle. That's a great name.
Thank you.
Nice man. Next question, please.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering what your favorite line of the game is.
Mine is so boring, but obviously it's, I feel quite hungry. What else is it going to be? Of course it was going to be that, I'm sorry.
Mine is a bad day is just a bad day, and it's because that line has resonated with so many people, and it's so simple, but it even helps me. Like if I'm having a shit day, I'm just like, do you remember what Hans said? And I actually feel better.
Do I feel another tattoo coming on?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the record.
Almost certainly, yeah. So definitely that one.
What was your favourite line in the game?
The Royal Bizzle.
Do you mean Noble Pizzle? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
You Yankee my noble pizzle.
Yankee my Noble Pizzle. Good choice.
There will be no pizzle yanking on this stage.
Many people's.
Dankjewel.
Thank you.
Next question, please. My favorite line is in the end of the trailer, the first trailer. What was it again? Something like, I thought we were gonna just have some...
Oh, a fuck or two.
Yes. And then the arrow next to your head.
Yes.
Hello.
I have a bit of a funny question. How awkward was it in a studio when you had to do the romancing voice lines?
It's not awkward at all. It's really not. I mean, whoever you're romancing with, ultimately it's your job. And actually, we both trained predominantly in theatre. I've done loads of jobs where there's lots of elements of like intimacy or combat or whatever it might be, and it's really just part of the job. So I think you'd be surprised how unawkward and how easy it is. You know, your job is just to pretend and imagine. We know each other really well. Some of the actors sort of do it in the other romances I didn't know so well, so then you kind of take a bit more time to get to know each other. These days, actually, there's a lot more care given to, like, there are things called intimacy coordinators whose job it is to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and safe. So that's really important, that's quite new. But in terms of, it's honestly not awkward at all. It's our job, you know, and our job is to make it real, so.
Yeah, I mean, the actor's job is to reflect real life, real relationships, real people, real humanity, and so to shy away from that because it might feel a little bit tricky or whatever would be a shame, because you have to. I think part of the reason, you know, that those relationships have been resonated with so many people is because we commit, you know, and you have to commit. Otherwise, it's a cop out, and it's important to do it, you know.
There's also like a really respectful atmosphere. Like Warhorse are really, like, because they're a good studio, but all sets, all professional sets, will make sure you feel safe. And it was the day that we did our romance scene. It was just very like calm and focused, wasn't it? But it definitely wasn't awkward. It was, yeah,
Just like any other day.
Yeah.
So they had an intimacy coordinator.
Not on this. So they
didn't. We didn't.
Yeah, but had we needed one, they would have got one. To be honest, because this is quite unusual for us. and we didn't need one because we know each other very well, and there's a very much an established language where if one of us felt uncomfortable, we very easily say it.
We didn't know each other for so long that we were able to have that very tricky conversation should we need to. I can say, how you doing, how you feeling, and we can openly talk about that. But yeah, if an intimacy coordinator is typically, if you have to be, and it's coming to your point, you have to be very intimate with someone very quickly and you met yesterday.
Yeah.
And that is important to have someone there who can facilitate it, to make sure you're both comfortable. But as I say, we didn't necessarily need that.
It would have been at first, I think, an intimacy coordinator on a, for a developer of video games. And
Yeah, I think it's becoming. It's a really good question. I think it's becoming more of a thing. It's a role that didn't even exist at all about 6 or 7 years ago,
Exactly.
and now it sort of would never not exist on a TV set. I think very quickly people moved into that space. Rightly.
There's no one that doesn't think it's a good idea. Everyone agrees that it's a fantastic idea to have one.
But you coordinated your own intimacy.
We did.
We do.
Thank you.
Dankjewel, wat is je naam?
Sky.
Thanks.
Hello, Sky. Thank you, Sky.
Thank you.
Next question, please. We've got some elf ears.
Hi.
Hello.
How would you rate the motion capture experience so far, and would you do it like more in the future? That type of thing.
Sorry. Loud, I can't.
No, I have to say this.
Oh, so for those of you that didn't hear, it's not your fault. It's the feedback, so don't worry.
Okay, so how would you rate the motion capture experience so far, and would you do this type of work more in your future?
Thank you. Sorry about that. It's really not your fault. It's very echoey. So I would rate the motion capture experience really highly. It's not, as many of you might know, my background is theatre mostly and now much more TV. So this is my only gaming experience, and I think it's sort of beautifully simple actually, performance capture. It's not that different. Obviously the way you're dressed is different because you're like head to toe in lycra and you've got dots all over you. On the second game we had what they call HMC, so head-mounted cameras that are heavy and cumbersome. So that technically is different. But in terms of your imagination, it's exactly the same. And it's in some ways more like theatre because you're imagining everything that's around you, where if you're on a theatre set or whatever, often those things aren't around you. So I really enjoyed it, and I was really pleasantly surprised that actually it's not like some great new skill that you need to go away and train for. The core of it is basically just imagining and playing, which is all that acting is. So I'd rate it really highly, and would I do it again? Absolutely, yes. If anyone asks me to, which they may not, but no, I definitely would.
From the performance capture, right? So you did the voice lines, and then you did the performance capture, or the movements of the body? Is that
Yeah, so the motion capture or performance capture comes first, and they do that first because it takes a very long time to animate those scenes, and they're very polished and very cinematic and beautiful. So it takes them a long time to get that right. And then the voice work comes after because that's the in-game dialogue, and that's just like an ongoing process. Sometimes they're still writing those scenes right up until the very end, changing them, tweaking them. So yeah, that comes after, and usually takes a lot longer. So you'll be doing voice lines for a year, coming back and forth to wherever the studio is.
Right.
The thing I love about motion capture, by the way, is that I love how much you have to employ your imagination to do it, and there are obstacles in your way. So you're, as Tom says, you're in this suit and you're in this grey studio, but in your head, you really do have to believe you are in a lake or on a mountain or wherever you are, and you have to embody that and imbue your performance with that what is in your head. And if you can't really use your imagination, which I love doing, I don't think people will buy it. I don't think people will care. So I really like the challenge of that.
So you didn't actually swim in a lake?
I don't know if you've seen, but there's some really funny footage of us in the motion capture studio swimming, where we literally just lie across a chair and kick our legs. And you do it very well. I don't do it very well because Henry can't swim.
Pebbles is a chair, guys.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, my thesis work related to motion capture, so this was very insightful.
Ah, okay, I see. Thank you for your question.
Good luck. Oh, okay.
Hi again.
Hi.
Hello.
I finally know my question. What is your favorite dog breed?
Our favorite was?
Dog breed.
Dog breed.
Ooh, dog breed. Me and Labrador, because I had a Labrador when I was a kid, and I called Max. He was super cute. He was sort of like he was like the Disney dog, you know, when you kind of like really cute, really stupid, and really lovable. So for me, it's got to be a Labrador.
My family have always had border collies, sheepdogs.
Ooh.
It's a double-edged sword. They're a beautiful, wonderful dog, but they're too smart. And what I mean by that is they are so smart that they actually get like anxiety, and it's kind of a problem because they just worry about everything. And they're smart enough to do that. So they'll be like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything? Can I go to the shop for you? What do you need? What's that? What was that?" And it's just like, just calm down. It's okay. Like just one thing at a time, like every other dog, please. Most dogs are just like, bone.
Yeah, I was going to say that is the antithesis of a Labrador. Like we'd be like polar opposite dogs because my dog would literally just be like,
"Okay." Yeah.
That was,
which is, I think, better to have as a pet, as a better pet, because the smart ones it's just overwhelming. They just think too much. They need to calm down. Yeah, but I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What kind of...
Well, he's not a bulldog, but he's got like sort of a bulldoggy type face.
Yeah, he's a weird breed.
Yeah,
I'm sure. But if I know Warhorse, they'll have put him as a breed at the time. That would have been very, very common. So I don't know what that breed is, but nice shirt, bro.
Thank you.
Nice shirt. Show everyone the Pizzle shirt. Come on, round of applause for the Pizzle.
I was there to give my Pizzle at the still live stream. My question, you probably already heard it before, but whatever. I'm an amateur theater actor, and I always go back and forth with my director about where is my character going or what can I do myself with. How much influence did you have for both your character in the games or in the game development?
How much influence did you have on your character in the development?
Not tons, because we didn't really need to right from the get-go. I mean, it's, the story is so beautifully written, and it's such a kind of rich, well-structured story, and peopled by really rich, three-dimensional people, that, like with any good script, if you're working on a play or a TV show, a lot of the work is done, there's nothing to work with unless that's there. So we're sort of like, not quite the icing on that cake, but the foundation of it has to be in the writing, and it very much is with Warhorse because they're brilliant writers amongst many other things. And so in terms of the actual input to who they were, not loads. In terms of Henry's accent, we did spend a whole day workshopping accents before I officially got the role. So we played with lots of different stuff. So I have an input there of like, if he's a rural boy but it's Bohemia in 1400s, like, what does that sound like? He obviously wouldn't have been a native English speaker, so what would be like an equivalent accent, a bit like Game of Thrones, where you're like, well, it's not literal, we're not actually saying that's where they're from, but it has a flavour of that. In the second game, in terms of our input, it would be mostly things like, if you were, like the lines were so brilliantly written they didn't need changing, but every so often you might go, actually that turn of phrase might be a bit different, because we knew our characters so much better by that point. But in terms of like who they were and what they would do, very little input, that work was done for us.
There's a quote I really like that kind of sums it up to me, which is 90% of a director's job is casting. And I really like that because it's so true. If you've cast the right people, hopefully they did.
And answer that.
They kind of, what they've brought to the table in the auditions and what you see in them as a director, the work's mostly there. And so we were cast for those roles for hopefully the right reason, and we didn't need to colour things too much. We just had to show up and commit to the moment. And we've heard time and time again, and thankfully, a lot of people say like, you are perfect for that role. And the fact that I play a bratty noble says it all, doesn't it, really, about me, I guess. So I'll take that one on the chin. But yeah, like, the writing was so good that we never had to do much. We just had to commit, really.
I'm afraid we have time for one more question, and after that I have a special surprise for everybody, and everybody will have to go back to their seats, because that is imperative for the surprise.
Hello. Hi, my name is Joyce. I have a really short question. How were the motion capture scenes with Bond? The human man, of course.
The motion capture scenes with Mutt.
Yeah, with the dog, which was obviously not a real dog.
Was a human, it was, yeah. Did you have any scenes with the human?
Not so, only a couple, but there is a famous picture which you may be thinking about where that's not me in that picture, funny enough. So sometimes they would do little, like tiny little bits of physicality without us because it might be like it's not like an acting scene. It would just be a little bit. But I did do scenes with Mutt, which was a person. Honestly, it all goes back to what I was saying before. Obviously, on the one hand, it's hilarious and ridiculous, and you're like, what am I doing with my life? I'm dressed in lycra, pretending to treat a human like a dog. It's worse ways to make a living, maybe. But conversely, you go, it's just the nature of what we do in terms of like play and silliness. And it's weirdly unweird when you're doing it because your job is to make it real and pretend that it's a dog. So yeah, and there's so much weird stuff we have to do in that performance capture studio. I think pretending that a human is a dog is very much the gentle end of that spectrum.
And Hans wants nothing to do with Mutt. Doesn't give a toss about Mutt, to be honest. If anything, it just annoys him. So no.
Now that you mentioned it, you've never even mentioned the dog or pet it.
Well, I do. I talk about him. It's always in a derogatory tone. It's like you bloody Mutt.
Oh right.
God did say to me in the scene I got to yesterday, you were like, don't worry, we'll go and find Mutt later after we've done all the other things. He doesn't mean that.
Don't care about it. I do have hunting dogs, and I think Hans sees dogs as a means to an end. He doesn't see them as like creatures that you love. He's like, that dog is going to hunt that rabbit for me.
Like a tool for you.
Yeah, it's a tool because I don't have to do the work, the dog does.
That makes me...
it's like Henry.
All right.
One level up from Mutt, only.
Basically.
Thanks so much for your question.
Thank you.
All right, we have one last surprise because we're giving away 5 limited edition posters signed by you guys, and you can pick them up at the guest square. And the only thing we have to do, we're going to do a little opera here. So if you look under your chair, there should be a sticker.
What?
And if not, you're not a winner. And if there is,
What?
you are a winner. Anyone?
Let's try
Anyone have
that
a
if you
sticker
guys
under
pick
their
that.
chair?
What's the
I think it's like underneath. Yeah. Maybe you have to stick.
But thank you all for coming to the panel. It's so
so much,
lovely. It's
guys.
of course amazing. And
We do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
hopefully we'll see you over the weekend.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. You were great. I hope there will be a Kingdome Deliverance 3. I bet there will
We
be.
couldn't possibly comment.
But you've signed an NDA, so thanks so much.
Thank you everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this exclusive Q&A session. But the excitement doesn't